Hello guys, I welcome you all to the video lecture series of Python application programming of module 3 according to VTU syllabus. So in our previous video we have discussed about list, and in continuation with the previous video and the concept of list, as you know, the list is nothing but a group of elements which are enclosed in a square brackets. Now let us see, can we delete the elements inside the list? Yeah, of course we can do it by using three methods. Pop is one method, remove is the second method, and del operator is the third method. So these are the three operators. Let us just try to differentiate between these three operators which deletes the element inside the list. So here if I use pop without passing any input argument, say for example, ls is the list of elements, and say if I use x is equal to ls dot pop without any input arguments, so this deletes the last element of the list by default, that is 10, and that deleted element will be assigned to the variable called x. So here 10 is removed from the list and it is stored in x. Now if I say print ls and print x, so print ls would be the list of elements 3, 6, minus 2, 8, 10, and the x would be the deleted element. Since I have not used any input argument, so it should be the deleted element of the last element by default. Okay, yeah, see. Say if I want to delete a particular index position element which is present at a particular index position, say for example, if I want to delete a, so just find what is the index position of a. Say it is 0th index position in the list. So I use dot pop with the index position of the element which you are intended to delete. The same thing, t dot pop of 0. Here I am going to pass an input argument. Suppose if I use 2, so it would be 0, 1, and 2. Second index element of the list A, B, C, that is C, will be deleted and it will be assigned to X. So pop can be used in two different ways. One, if you don't use the input argument to the pop, by default it will delete the last element. Whereas in the second case, if you use the pop by passing the input argument, but by knowing the index of the element which needs to be removed from the list, you're going to give that number, that is index, as the input argument to the pop operator. Now later, how do we use remove? Suppose if we don't know the index value in the list, but we know the value of the list to be removed. Suppose if I want to remove minus 12 from the list, so you can directly use dot remove and say minus 12. So the existing list will be altered, but the value of the list will, the minus 12 will be removed. But here one more thing is, like, you cannot assign this value to any of the variable. If you say a is equal to ls dot remove minus 12 also, it will not be assigned to a. So now you say minus 12. Now you see from the list minus 12 is removed. So likewise, if I know the value of the list, say for example, if I know the value that is 34 and I want to remove it, just remember you can use dot remove operator with the input argument as the value of the list. Yeah, and you just try to iterate with multiple values and you can do the iterations. Suppose if I want to remove only the first occurrences but not all occurrences, example 34. The problem is, here in this remove, if I have another 34, say for example element, and I am intended to remove the element 34, so obviously it will remove only the first occurrences but not all the occurrences of that element value. So here in this case it will remove only 134 and the second iterated occurrence, that is 34, will be retained. Okay, but just in order to avoid confusion, let us keep it very simple. Here, if I have multiple occurrences of the same element, if we are trying to remove the element by knowing its value, so then you can remove, but the only one element, that is a first occurrence, will be removed, rather remaining occurrences will be retained as it is. Now coming to DL operator. This is an operator to be used when more than one items of the list to be deleted at a time. Suppose I want to delete here again, ls delete option is going to use the index operator. It takes the input argument as an index, but here in pop, see, remember it was pop of a common bracket. Here it is now ls of 2. If you want to delete an individual element, say now if I want to delete 0, 1, 2, this minus 2, so just simply use ls of 2. It's called DL operator followed by space ls of 2. So simply the DL operator will remove the value with respect to this index. So here if I want to use remove multiple values, say I want to remove from 6 till 8. So let me count the index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So till 4th, I need to remove it from 1 to 4th, excluding 4. Okay. So this excludes 4th index value of the list. So here I use DL operator to remove multiple elements inside the list. You have another operator, that is colon. Suppose if you want to delete all odd indexed element of a list, say for example, this is 1, this is 3, this is 5, this is 7. So these are all odd indexed values of the list. If I want to delete all odd indexed element, that is 2, 4, 6, 8. Those are odd indexed values. So I can use DLT of 1 : 2. So it will remove all the odd instances from the list. Now there are so many functions inside the list, like max, min, sum, len, etc. We are going to use a couple of functions inside the list. Suppose I have a list called list of integer values. If I want to print max of ls, so the maximum value inside the list is 32, and that will be printed. Suppose if I want min, so you may see print min also. So what is the minimum element of the list? Likewise, sum of all the elements inside the list. Likewise, length of the list. What is the length of the list? Just count the number of elements inside the list. So here it is 7. So it would be 7. Print length of list, ls. So I'm just trying to print a couple of output results of the function. Now, if I want to find an average, suppose if I want to find the average of the list, say average is equal to sum of ls divided by length of ls, and then simply say print average. Here I have written a small program to read the data from the user and to compute the sum and average of those elements which has been entered by the user. Here I am going to use create an empty list. This is how we can create an empty list of. Now I'll use a conditional statement, that is an infinite loop statement, while loop, while true. This statement is always true. So this iterates every time. In every iteration, you prompt user to enter a number. So I make use of x is equal to input, enter a number. Now, and I make a condition. I just want to break this loop. Say if user types done, so that user will be allowed to enter some finite number of elements to the list, and you say done, it will break whenever user enters a number. Okay, so this will be considered as x is equal to float of x. Why? Because I'm going to deal with the floating point values in future, like, and when I compute an average, it will be a floating point value. You can make it integer also, no problem. So here here I have an empty list. Whenever I read a value given by the user, so it will be assigned to X. So ls.append of X. In our previous video, we had come across different types of methods which can be applied to the list. So there ls.append is one of the method. So ls.append of X. So this will be appended. If I say print of ls here, if I say print of ls, you may see whenever the user enters a value, the list will be appended by that value. And once you have the list, say just like this, once you have the list, it's easy to calculate the sum, and you can calculate the length. Simply divide sum by length, you get an average. So this is sum by length, you get an average. Okay. So let me just run this program. Now see, user is entering a number, for example 32, and give an enter. So you see the list is updated by 32.0. Why? Because you are read it as x is equal to float of x. And here it is updated as ls.append.x. I have not yet completed, I have not yet said done. So it is still inside this infinite loop. So now I say 2, enter. See, now the list is getting updated by 32.0. Now I say 12. The list is getting updated as and when I say I give an input as an integer, and you can give input as negative values also, but not string. Be careful. But list can be updated with the string, but the problem is like it cannot find the sum of that string. You cannot include that value to the integer or float value. Now, if I say I'm done with the numbers. Okay, so I just say done. So it will break the loop, and now the average which is calculated, it is 15.5. I have passed a negative value of the element also to the list. Now I have list and string. Suppose if I have a string called s is equal to hello, so how to convert it into list of characters or list of alphabets of the string? So you say s is equal to hello, list of s. If you say simply say list of input string s, it will convert this string into the list of characters of that word. If I say hello world, so it will be converted to hello. And see here, I had a space, so that space is also considered as an element of the list. Okay, yeah. Suppose if we have a group of words as a statement or a sentence, and you want to create a list of words, you're going to use split operator. Say s is equal to hello, how are you? Now split this is s dot split. So just split is not defined, so it is defined based upon you are going to apply it on a string. So s dot split, so it splits the sentence into the list of words. This will be useful in future. Okay, so what is that? This is a void input argument. Now if I want to give a specific input, suppose I have something like this. The words are separated using a delimiter by a forward slash, say for example. Now you can give this s dot split has to be separated by, whenever you find a forward slash, it should be separated by the forward slash. Okay. Otherwise, if you just say void, so hello, how are you? The entire string is considered as one word unless and until you have a space. If you have a space, so based on the space, so this void is nothing but a space which is considered, and that will split based upon the space. Now if I want, if I have a date like 23 to 2018, let me make it 26/3/2020, which is today's date, exactly after Yugadi. It's festival which we celebrate according to our Hindu calendar. We celebrate a new year according to the Hindu calendar, that is on 25th of March. And of course, it's a very sad moment for the entire world because the pandemic COVID-19, the novel COVID-19 virus, has spread across the nation, spread across the world, and all are fighting towards the survival, all are fighting against COVID. And this video has been prepared on 26th of March 2020 in order to help you people not to stay behind on your education, not to stay behind on your learning process. So this is just an effort to make you people learn, though you are out of the institution, out of the college, library, uh, direct teaching and learning process. Okay, so okay, let us just come back to split operation. So split. If I have some predefined characters which are present inside a string, and if I know that predefined character, so I can make use of this predefined character to split the characters between this predefined character. Here I have a predefined character like a slash, and I just want to separate, create a list with respect to these characters separated by this delimiter. I call this as a delimiter. If you know the specific delimiter for splitting the line, so you can use it as an input argument. And suppose I have another, use it, but say I have very similarly, I can have another list like time is equal to, if I have a time, say now the time is 11:09:36. Same. And if I want to split using a colon as a delimiter, and now this dt has to be replaced by time because I have read it as a time. Now you can see 11 o'clock, 9 minutes and 36 seconds. Likewise, I have join. It exactly functions as opposite to the split. You have a list of elements and you have a join function, and this is very important. D is equal to, here if you don't use space, can you see this now? If I don't use space, it will simply join all the character as a string without space. So if I give a space, this is an empty string with space. I should just make it, this is an empty string with space as a delimiter. You can call it as space as a delimiter. Okay. Yeah. So now this will have a space as a delimiter with every element of the list, and it will concatenate all the elements inside the list. So be careful with this. So D is an empty space here. Now coming to parsing lines, suppose I have an mbox sort.txt. Let me see whether I can show it on the same window. Yeah, let me skip the share. Let me go to, yeah, no, I cannot share that. Suppose assume that I have an mbox short.txt, that is a text file, as we have seen in our previous videos. Now, how can I read the text file? We just simply say open mbox.short.txt and fhand is file handling variable. So now for line in fhand, in each iteration, line in fhand will be the lines inside this text. Now I would say line.rstrip, which removes all the empty spaces. And see here, if I make use of print line, you may see all the lines. I'll not use this condition for a moment. I should remove this condition. See, these are the lines which was there inside my mbox dot -short txt. So now, so So all these lines, but I'm interested in, this is a mail transaction. I'm interested in the mails which has been received from many users and the day of the mail received. Day like the day of the week. Suppose Saturday, Friday, Sunday, that's it. So here I have received a mail. If I know the characteristics of the string, say for example, I have received a mail, like if it is a complete clear mail transaction, it should start with from. So I would look for the line which starts with from. If not line starts with from, continue, it will go to the loop, it will increment, it will go to the next line. That's it. It will not break. Be careful, use continue in these situations. If you say break, it will come out of the loop. So if you say continue, line dot starts with from, then this will be continued. If it doesn't start with from, so it goes to the next line and it reads. So if the line, it starts with from, so it is here now. So words is equal to line dot split. It will split the word. If you want to see, it will split the word. Now it will be a group, a list of words here. Say in every iteration, it will be the list of words. Okay. So it will be the list of words. Now let me, I cannot stop for the first iteration. What I can do is I can, okay, fine. So this is a list of words. Okay, this is the list of words, the first line, and this is the 0th index of the list, this is the first index of the list, and this is the second index of the list. So I have used words of 2 falls into the second index. It is always a day of the week. Okay, so just I'll remove this. So now, yeah, you can see, let me remove this line also. Now you see, I have so many lines here. I have so many lines. This is first line, second line, third line, fourth line, likewise. But whenever you have from, a day of the week has been written. Okay. Yeah. I'll be sharing this video. Along with the video, I'll be sharing you this Jupyter file, IPYNB file. Just try to simulate this program and try to make some alterations in this program so that you can learn these concepts very well. Okay. Wherever I had made comment, you just try to remove those comments and just try to see what is the output. If you want, delete this and just watch, compile the result and check what is the output and so on. Objects and values. Here I have declared A is equal to a string, B is equal to a string. I want to check whether an object and values are same. I can call it as an identical object if A is B is true. So two variables referring to same object. Yeah, I have two variables but referring to same object, that is hi. Hi is a string. And again, A equal to B, I can call it as an equivalent object if two variables refer to different objects but common value. Be careful. I have same value given to two different variables. We call it as equivalent objects. It is identical when you have two variables, that is A and B, referring to same object. Why? Because you have same values. And also equivalent object when you have two variables referring to two different objects but of same value. So call it as an identical object when two variables are assigned with same object, and you call equivalent object when it is assigned with different object but contain same value. So there are many chances it may be equivalent but not identical. When is very important. With this example, I can say string literals are interned. I would call this as an interned by default. Why? Because these strings are both identical and equivalent. Let us take the second example to understand this concept better. Now I have S1 is equal to input, enter a string, S2 is equal to input, enter a string. Assume that user is going to enter the same values, that is high. Okay, the same values, that is high. But here it is a string, this is fixed. But here I don't know whether a user might enter high or user might enter some other character. So here string literals are entered by default, but string variables read from the keyboard will not have this behavior. We understand this. Here S1 is S2, it is false. So it is not identical. Why? Because S1 and S2 are two different variables with two different objects, but not of same value. It may or may not be same value, but here this input has made this non-interned values. Okay, just understand this is not interned. So likewise, lists are not interned. So now if I run this program, we say enter a string, I will enter high. Again, I will enter the second string as high. But here S1 is S2, it is false. S1 equal to S2, it is true. Why? Because there are two variables with two objects, but of same value. Okay, so it is true. That is why it is called as equivalent. But it is not identical. Why? Because S1 and S2, since you are prompting user to enter some input values, you are going to get a different, you may or may not, but you by default, it is a different input which is expected by S1 and S2. So this S1 and S2 are not identical. Very similar to these two statements which are made here, lists are not interned. What do you mean by interned? Interned means you should oblige these two features. That is, it should be an identical object and it should be an equivalent object. You have two different variables A and B, two different objects, high, both are same values, you call it as equivalent objects. Two variables referring to same values or to the same object, you call it as identical. It's very rare cases here. So strings by default are interned. Why? Because it satisfies both identical and equivalent. Identical are equivalent, but equivalent need not to be identical always. Remember. Okay. Now I shall have another concept called aliasing. After this, I have a couple of exercises. So I'll have an aliasing. Aliasing is nothing but you're trying to refer to the same memory location. Suppose I have an object. This is an object here assigned to a variable called ls1. I'll print ls1, so obviously it will be 1, 2, 3. Now if I say, if I assign an object to other object using assignment operator, suppose I have ls2. ls2 is said to be reference of ls1. Here I have referred this ls1 to ls2. So just say print ls1 and ls2. Yeah, obviously it is equal. Why? Because ls1 and ls2 are two variables but refer to the same object. Understand? This is an object. This is a variable. This is a variable. Two variables refer to the same object. Now, whatever changes that you try to do in ls2 will be reflected in ls1. So here, observe this. Here I have ls1, that is 1, 2, 3. I've verified whether ls2 is equal to ls1. So it said true. Now I try to change the first element of ls1, that is, ls2, that is 2. I've changed it to 34. So now you can see in ls1, I have printed ls1. Now there is a change of values which has been made in ls1. Whatever changes that you make in ls2 will be reflected in ls1. And ls1, if you try to change, obviously it is a primary list. So it has to be reflected in ls2 because after changing ls1, you're going to assign it to ls2. So there's no doubt. But here, if you try to assign this object to ls2, you call it as a reference of ls1. Whatever changes you make in ls2 will be reflected in ls1. I have list arguments. function receives reference to this list. See here, uh, I have a function called DL front. So here I have a T argument and it receives this T argument and it simply omits, it simply deletes the zeroth index value of that list. So here T is considered as a list. So it simply removes, deletes the first element of the list, that is zeroth index element of the list. Okay. I call this as DL front of the, let me make some small changes here. I am intended to delete the first index value of the list. So I create a list called ls is equal to ABC. Okay. And now how to call a function? Call by its name followed by the input argument. Now I am passing this input argument as a list. The argument ls and the parameter t both are aliased to the same object ls. Remember, this is my object, this is my variable ls. So here ls and t are two different variables, but aliases to same object, you call it as aliasing. Here also ls1 ls2 is two variable, but it refers to the same object called 1 2 3, you call it as aliasing. That means you are referring to the same memory location. If you make some changes in ls2, will be reflected in ls1. Why? Because it is referred to the same memory location. So here, if I run this program, now you can see B is removed. Why? Because I had intended to remove the first element. Suppose if I say 3, it will say index error. Why? Because index out of range. Why? Because I don't have the third index value inside my input argument, that is list. Now D is removed. Okay. Understanding the operators that will modify the list and the operations that create a new list. Suppose I want to append and modify the list. You can see T1 is equal to 1, 2 is a list, T2 is equal to T1 dot append of 3. What is T1 now? T1 will be 1, 2, 3, but T2 here, see, T2 is none. Because you're trying to modify the list, existing list T1, and T2 doesn't belong to any operator. If you say T2 is equal to T1, then this example, this is the example of aliasing. But here, if I want to simply update or modify the list, here T3 is equal to T1 plus 5. So what is T1? T1 is equal to 1, 2, 3. And you have concatenated and you create a new list called T3. This is a different variable and this is a different object. Though you have T1, but this is not equal. Print T3, T2 is T3, false. This T2 and T3 are different. T2 and this T3 are different. Sorry, this is different. Yeah, let me take the same example. What is T2 now? T2 is equal to 1, 2, 3. You agree? No, sorry. T2 is what? Yeah, 1, 2, 3. Let me take the same T1 here because T1 is modified. That is a problem. T1 is modified here. T1 is modified and it is 1, 2, 3. And this is 5. That just simply concatenate the string. So T1 is not defined. Let me run this program. Now T1 is defined and you'll get 1, 2, 3, 5. But T2 is not same as T3. If I ask you people to write a function to modify a list, this is how you'll try to write a function. Here, this function has no effect basically. Why? Because see here, test t, test is a function name colon, t is equal to t1 all. That means return all the elements after 1. Here, ls is equal to 1, 2, 3. Test of ls. So ls is a string. ls is a string, and you're going to pass ls as an input argument to t, and t is equal to t of 1 all. But here there are no return values of this t. So list remains to be the same. Be careful. I am trying to, though I have called a function called test of ls, it will go to this function. T and ls both are referring to the same object, that is aliasing as done. But the problem is I have not changed this variable because it has not returned. So ls is equal to 1, 2, 3. Suppose I say, I'm just trying to alter it here only, return of t of 1 colon. No, I can't alter it here. Let me return the same thing. Suppose if I say return of t of 1 colon, and that return value is assigned to another variable outside. So it will be assigned, then the list value, the list elements will get changed. See here. Okay, let us come back to the same program. Now, since it is not returning any value, so if I simply say print ls, so it will say test of ls has no effect on the original list. This is my original list. Suppose I say return t of 1 colon. Again, it doesn't have any effect. Why? Because I have not assigned it to another variable. Say if I assign it to another variable called ls1, and now if I say try to print ls1, now we can see the change. That is, ls1 has been modified by using this list. See here, this identical objects has been, this aliasing variables. This is aliased variables t and ls, okay, which carries the same object value. But here the object value is changed and it has to return. And this is assigned to a new variable called ls1. And you can change the value of the list by assigning it to other variable. For the example's sake, for our convenience, I am going to return the same program. Here I have written the second program where I call ls as a list. The original list is not modified because a return statement is assigned to another variable and it always creates a new object. So remember, this is a new variable and this is a new object with the value of 1. That is, this 1 is removed from the list. This is removed. See here, ls1, this 1 is removed. So this 2 to 3, 1, all. From 1 first index, all elements are printed. You can make it like this also, just to make sure only 1 is printed, 2, 3 is removed. Say 2 excluding 2, 0, 1, 2, it excludes 2, it excludes 3, so it is 1, 2. Likewise, you make some changes and try to see. Let me see what happens like if I use like this. Okay, only 2 is printed. Okay, guys, this is all about the list. So this completes the 33% of your third module. So after list, we will discuss more about dictionaries, which is again another data type. So I hope you have enjoyed this video lecture. Along with this video lecture, I'll be sharing this IPYNB files on your Edmodo. Please download this file and watch this video. Parallelly run this program, compile, interpret, execute, check, change, modify, and try to learn in a better way. Okay. Thank you one and all. Stay home, stay safe, enjoy e-learning, enjoy this content. Thank you one and all.